Hey there! Welcome to Product Marketing Maestros, Tales from the Front Lines. I'm your host, Nitin Kartik. As Director of Product Marketing and a top product marketing voice, I've always found that real world case studies are the true litmus test for the effectiveness of any product marketing strategy. And that is why in this show, I bring you important insights from some of the industry titans as well as rising stars, and we unpack their expertise in action packed episodes that showcase the power of product marketing through real world case studies. And today, my friends, we are joined by product marketing maestro Bryan Elanko, who is Senior Product Marketing Manager at CloudBees. As a B2B product marketing leader, Bryan has extensive experience sharing strategy and shaping it, as well as developing and launching products in diverse industries, including tech, energy, and telecom. Throughout his experience working in US, Canada, and Norway, Bryan has gained a deep insight into B2B SaaS and hardware solutions, ranging from short to long cycle projects and commodity to cutting edge products, everything in between. Bryan's thought leadership includes speaking at various Product Marketing Alliance and other conferences, and also being featured as a guest on prominent podcasts, and also being the creator of Strategy in Process. Bryan earned his bachelor's in electrical engineering from Texas A&M University and his MBA from Rice University. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Bryan Elanko. Bryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nitin, for that wonderful introduction and having me here today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so Bryan, we will give our audience a situation from your background. We'll use the ABC framework. So we'll talk about the antecedents, what were the prior challenges, we'll talk about the behaviors, what were some of the actions that you took, and we'll talk about the conclusion, how things played out. So with that, Bryan, pick a situation from your background and tell us what were the antecedents, what were the prior challenges?
Definitely. So the case study that I picked for today is an experience from my current role. When I first got pulled into my current role, I wanted to highlight one of the assignments that was given to me, and that was to set up a new competitive intelligence practice within the company, along with the buyer insights practice. And there were a couple of challenges. First and foremost, they didn't have an established practice that they could fall back on. There was some effort in the past, but nothing that led to a dedicated competitive intelligence practice. They also wanted sales to develop a new muscle where they're able to sell competitively, because early on they were relying on a lot of open source lead-ins. So this was going to be a whole new thing. And finally, there was very limited exposure to the different buying centers that were involved in the complex sale, their pains, motivations, and insights of that nature. We had very limited exposure to it.
Wow. I can clearly see that a lot of our audience may relate to some of these challenges that you shared. So wonderful. So thank you, Bryan, for that. Now that we've talked about the challenges, let's talk about the behavior. So tell us, what were some of the actions that you took here?
Definitely. I could go on a long list of actions that I took to address these challenges. But in the interest of time, I want to just highlight three major things. One, I started off with the listening tour, because the stakeholder for everything I was going to do around buying insights and competitive intelligence was going to be sales. So I talked to a huge number of sales folks. Specifically, I asked them four questions. What are the pain points that you have in your selling process, especially versus competitors? What are the actions that you would take if you had all the information in the world? What are the minimum data points or insights that I can offer you to close the intelligence gap? And finally, how would you like to consume your insights? So that was the major thing, going on a listening tour. The second major thing that I did was to help the sales teams understand the different buying centers. So I looked through all their sales interactions and I uncovered 9 different buying centers. And for each buying center, I created a cheat sheet for anyone to use, which pretty much laid out the jobs to be done statement for the buying center, the top 3 pains associated with the jobs to be done, and specific use cases, capabilities that we can leverage in terms of resolving those pains. And I even did a presentation at Product Marketing Alliance in one of their summits last year in Chicago. So if folks want to dive deeper, I would advise them to also check it out. The last thing that I want to highlight is the building of a competitive intelligence ecosystem. So if you want to set up something new, like a competitive intelligence practice, the first thing that you have to do is tier your competitors. So what we did was pretty much look at all the competitors that we have on the table, put them in tier one, tier two, tier three, depending on their impact and frequency. And the next piece was to create a flow of insights. So real-time insights around a Slack channel, a bi-weekly newsletter, and then a quarterly deep dives into market and competitive intel topics of interest. And finally, just to wrap things up, we also created a feedback loop. So everything was connected together, not just the insight generation, but also feedback and actual results from the field.
Absolutely fabulous. Wow, I can see how methodical your process was. Wonderful. So, Brian, you've told us about the antecedents and the behaviors. Now, let's talk about the conclusion. Tell us, how did this play out with the team then?
Yeah, definitely. There are a couple of ways we kept track of the output, so to speak, of all these efforts. Let me start with the quantitative part. There are these useful quantitative metrics that we kept our focus on. Win rates, that was a big thing. Deal size, platform revenue, not just point solutions, but platform revenue, thinking about the whole platform revenue, and net new ARR. So those were metrics that really improved. Those were the metrics that we cared about quantitatively. Qualitatively, there are a couple of things that we did. One was to pay attention to adoption of the sales assets. It's one thing to create the assets, but it's a whole different thing if the salespeople are not adopting and using it. So we paid attention to that adoption of assets. Then win-loss feedback from the sales folks. But more importantly, what was interesting was we created this team called Team of Champions. So those were top 3 folks from the sales team that we would interact with on a monthly basis. They were the voice of product marketing within sales, and they were the voice of sales within product marketing. So that was the feedback loop that we created, a wonderful program that's still in effect.
Oh my God, this is fabulous. So I think it's clear that you had all these challenges. You took a methodical approach to approach how you would address these challenges. And then you actually have the conclusion where you were tracking everything and you had that bi-directional feedback, so important for product marketing. Thank you. So, Brian, I learned a lot. I think our audience also learned a lot from this. Tell us, if people wanted to learn more about you, where can they find out more?
Definitely. I would suggest 2 things. One, connect with me on LinkedIn. Second, I release a product marketing newsletter every 2 weeks. You can subscribe to it for free at strategyandprocess.com.
Absolutely fabulous. So, folks, there you have it. Definitely connect with Brian on LinkedIn and subscribe to his newsletter. And my friends, armed with that knowledge, let's make the magic happen.